You've probably seen a trucker's hand move across a gear shifter like they're playing a piano, rowing through gear after gear after gear. An American big rig can have 18 of them, 18 forward gears in a single transmission. But take that same heavy trailer across Germany or France, and the truck pulling it has 12. Same freight, same kind of highway, same brutal weight behind the cab, 6 fewer gears. So what does an American truck know that a European one doesn't? The easy answer, the one almost everyone reaches for, is that American trucks are just bigger and heavier, so they need more gears to manage all that weight. Sounds obvious. It's also wrong, because here's the first crack in the story. A fully loaded truck in Europe is often heavier than its American cousin, not lighter. The number of gears was never really about the weight at all. It's about something much stranger. A decision made in a factory in 1963 that's quietly being undone right now in the trucks delivering packages to your door this week. The full answer has about 4 layers, and most people never get past the first. By the end of this, you'll never look at that shifter the same way again. But to understand why America built 18 gears and Europe stopped at 12, we have to start with what everyone gets wrong about big diesel engines. Start up an engine this size, and you hit a problem cars never have. A heavy diesel, a 15-liter monster making its peak pulling power down around 1,000 revolutions per minute, has a brutally narrow sweet spot. Let the revs drop too low and it bogs and shudders. Push them too high and you are just burning fuel and beating up the engine for nothing. The band where the engine is actually happy might be only a few hundred revolutions per minute wide. Now ask that engine to launch 80,000 pounds from a dead stop on a hill and then drag it all the way up to highway speed without ever once falling out of that narrow band. That is the real job. Therefore, you need gears, a lot of them, closely spaced so each shift drops the engine just a sliver and keeps it pinned in the sweet spot the entire climb. That is what the 18 speed is really for. And here's the part that surprises people. It is not 18 separate gears the way you would picture them. Underneath, it is essentially a 9-speed transmission with a hidden trick, a little switch called a splitter that cuts each of those 9 gears into a high and a low half. 18 positions, 18 tiny steps. Also, a human hand can keep a 15-liter engine exactly where it wants to live. Eaton, which builds most of them, even nicknames the classic version the Super 18. But notice what just happened. Every reason I just gave you, the crushing load, the narrow power band, the hill start, applies just as hard in Europe. Harder even, since European trucks are often the heavier ones. So if 18 finely spaced gears are the answer to moving heavy freight, why does a Volvo dragging 44 tons over an Alpine pass get by with only 12? Same physics, same merciless grades, same stubborn diesel that only wants to live in a sliver of its rev range. They did not find a loophole in the laws of physics. They solved the exact same problem, a completely different way, and that solution is where this stops being a story about trucks at all. In 2001, Volvo did something the trucking world thought was either brilliant or insane. They took the clutch pedal away. Their new transmission, the I-Shift, was the first automated manual ever built for a heavy truck, a gearbox with real gears and a real clutch, but with every decision about when and how to shift handed over to a computer. And the moment a chip was doing the shifting instead of a hand, the whole math of the problem changed. Here's why. A driver rowing 18 gears by hand is, honestly, a little clumsy. Every shift takes a beat. Every shift risks landing in the wrong gear, or grinding or bleeding off momentum halfway up a grade. Those 18 gears partly existed to forgive the human, to hand a driver so many closely spaced options that even a sloppy shift still landed the engine roughly in range. But a computer does not need forgiving. It shifts in milliseconds, perfectly rev matched, every single time. It can skip 3 gears at once when that is the smarter move. It can even read the road ahead. Volvo's IC system memorizes the shape of hills and picks the gear for a slope before the truck has reached it. So a machine that shifts flawlessly and effectively sees the future does not need 18 baby steps to stay in the sweet spot. 12 well-chosen gears, run by software, do everything those 18 hand-shifted gears did, and do it better. The European 12-speed is not a smaller, weaker version of the American 18. It is a sharper one. The gears did not vanish because the trucks got lighter. They vanished because the driver got replaced by code. And this connects to something you have almost certainly touched in the last few days, though we will come back to that. Because once you see that the real variable was never the truck, but who's pulling the levers, a bigger question cracks open. If the computer is so obviously better, more efficient, easier to drive, gentler on the engine, then why did America spend decade after decade building 18-speed manuals anyway? Why didn't both continents just do the smart thing from the start? That answer isn't engineering. It's history. And it begins with a single decision made on a factory floor in 1963, a decision so good at the time that it accidentally trapped an entire country in a habit it's only breaking out of now. In 1963, Eaton rolled out the Fuller Roadranger, and it changed American trucking for good. Its breakthrough was the twin countershaft. Instead of forcing all the engine's torque through one shaft, it split that load across two. That let engineers use thinner, lighter gears and still survive monstrous torque, which meant they could pack far more ratios into a transmission that didn't weigh a ton. Suddenly, a 9-speed, 13-speed, or 18-speed manual tough enough for American abuse wasn't just possible. It was durable, roadside repairable, and cheap. And America was the perfect soil for it. The runs were enormous, the freight never stopped, and the grades, the Rockies, the Grapevine, the long haul out of every river valley practically demanded a gear for every situation. But the real reason the 18-speed dug in so deep had nothing to do with metal. It was cultural. American long haul was built on owner-operators, drivers who owned their own rigs and took fierce pride in their craft, who saw rowing 18 gears the way a pilot sees flying by hand. The manual was cheaper to buy, simpler to fix on the shoulder of a highway, and mastering it was a genuine rite of passage. Learning to shift a non-synchronized 18-speed without grinding it to pieces, double-clutching, and matching engine speed purely by ear could take months. Plenty of drivers never truly got it, and that difficulty became part of the identity. The transmission was not just a tool, it was the line between a real trucker and a rookie. But here's the trap. A habit that good, baked that deep into how fleets buy and how drivers see themselves, outlives the reason it was born. The technology kept improving underneath it. Better engines, better electronics, and finally, the automated box that did the job better. The reason to keep hand-shifting 18 gears quietly evaporated. The habit did not. Therefore, America kept building and buying 18 speeds long after the computer had won the argument, not because the trucks needed them, but because an entire industry had wired its identity around them. Europe, with shorter routes, a deepening driver shortage, and far less romance about manual shifting, had no such anchor. It let go early. America held on. That gap, one continent clinging, one continent moving on, is exactly what you're seeing when you notice 18 gears versus 12. But that gap is closing far faster than almost anyone predicted. And that's where this finally lands in your own life. Here's the surprise that ties the whole thing together. The 18 speed is dying. Not gradually, fast. In 2013, only about 3 out of every 10 new American heavy trucks were sold with an automated transmission. Within barely a year, that number rocketed past 70%. Today, it's higher still. Volvo builds roughly 90% of its trucks with the automated I-shift. Mac reports that 94% of its flagship highway trucks now leave the line with the self-shifting M-Drive. Freightliner's Cascadia, the best-selling big rig in America, runs about the same. The 18-speed manual The badge of honor, the thing that defined American trucking for 60 years, is sliding toward being a rare special order relic for a shrinking band of holdouts. America isn't just adopting the European approach, it's sprinting to catch up, and you've been surrounded by this shift without ever once noticing it. That package that hit your porch this week rode in a trailer pulled by a truck that, more likely than not, now shifts itself with 12 computer-chosen gears instead of 18 hand-rode ones. The groceries in your fridge, the fuel in your car, the couch in your living room, all of it moved on the back of this exact transition, happening in real time, on the same interstate you drove yesterday. That driver you passed this morning probably wasn't rowing through gears at all. A computer was doing it, silently, better than any human ever could. The skill that took months to master, the one older drivers still talk about with real pride, is being quietly retired in shops across the country. So the question was never truly why America has 18 gears and Europe has 12. The real question, the one hiding underneath, is what happens to a 60-year-old habit when the reason for it finally runs out. And the answer is playing out on every freight corridor in the country as we speak. So here's where you actually land. You started by watching a hand sweep across a shifter, 18 gears, where a European truck has 12, and you assumed it meant the American truck was bigger, stronger, built to haul more. But that's not what you were looking at. You were looking at a diesel engine with a power band so narrow it needs gears stacked a sliver apart. A 1963 invention that made cheap, tough, many-geared manuals possible. A culture of owner-operators who turned shifting into an identity. A computer that showed up in 2001 and quietly made all of it obsolete. And a 60-year habit dying right now, replaced by 12 gears a machine picks better than any person could. The number of gears was never really about the truck. It was about who you trusted to choose them. A human hand or a chip. Europe trusted the chip early. America trusted the hand, right up until it couldn't justify it anymore. So you're not just looking at 18 versus 12. You're watching one of the last great manual skills on Earth get handed to a computer. And if that's strange, wait until you find out why American trucks have their engine jutting way out front, while European trucks are flat-faced, with the driver perched right over the front wheels. Because that one difference can decide whether a driver walks away from a crash, and the reason comes down to a few inches of law.